Tennessee is ranked number 1 in the college football playoff rankings. The first wave of them came out here for the regular season, and looky there, the Tennessee Vols are at the top. What's that mean now and moving forward, of course, with the major game coming up on Saturday? This is your Wednesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Wednesday edition of Locked On Vols. I am Eric Kane, your host here at Locked On Vols. You can always find me on Twitter at _Kaner and at Locked On Vols. Hey, we got over 2,000 followers on that Locked On Vols account. Thank you guys a lot for getting that done. I noticed that on Tuesday afternoon, so appreciate you guys for that. You can always find us there, and of course on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the like button, and wherever you find your podcast, completely free on all those audio platforms. It's a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Tennessee Vols are number 1 in the college football playoff rankings. We're going to go over that here in segment 1, catch up with Josh Ward, talk with him about that in segment 2, and then we'll look back at the PFF grades for the Kentucky win in segment number 3. This episode is brought to you in part by LinkedIn Jobs. Helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, so those college football playoff rankings, how about it? Tennessee is at the top. The one in reverse order, of course, went 25 through 20, UCF, former stop of Josh Heupel. Texas, Oregon State, NC State, Wake Forest, and Syracuse. That was 25 through 20. 19 to 15 is Tulane, Oklahoma State, North Carolina, Illinois, and Penn State. 14 to 10 or 14 to 11 is Utah, Kansas State, UCLA, Ole Miss at number 11, which it still kind of controls its own destiny. Not as much as LSU, of course, but and then you've got LSU there at number 10. So when we were going through those rankings over at ESPN, when they came out with that live broadcast on Tuesday night, saw LSU at number 10. And I'm like, all right, if LSU's at number 10, you know, that doesn't guarantee that Tennessee is going to be a number 1, but he kind of felt pretty good about your chances when Syracuse was a number 10, or excuse me, I keep saying Syracuse, LSU at number 10, and then it went to USC number 9, Oregon number 8. You got TCU, which is undefeated, has 4 ranked wins on that resume, is at number 7. Then you got Alabama at number 6. So you got LSU at 10, Alabama at 6, and you're like, all right, Tennessee's beaten both of those teams, and if Alabama is valued higher than TCU, which has a better resume, not altogether more ranked wins, of course, but has a pretty decent resume and it's undefeated 8-0, then you're feeling pretty good about where you are. Alabama at 6, Michigan at 5. That was a clear message. 8-0 Michigan's at number 5, playing in the Big Ten, but the out-of-conference schedule is weak. That was a message. You got to go play some people. Clemson is at 4. I do not think Clemson is – I pick Clemson to be in the college football playoffs before the season on the starting lineup on 99.1 The Sports Animal, but I just don't think that they're that good. I know they're undefeated 8-0 and all that, but I don't think that they're that good. But Clemson's at number 4. Georgia comes in at number 2. And once Georgia was there, Georgia number 3. Once Georgia was there at number 3, I was like, all right, Tennessee's going to be number 1 because, again, the resumes, they talk, right? Ohio State was at number 2, and then Tennessee comes in at number 1. We discussed it on yesterday's show when I made my case for Tennessee to be the number 1 ranked team in the country in the college football playoffs. Maybe it's batter Vol syndrome. I know that's a funny phrase we like to throw around there. I mean, I've been covering this team since 2017, really on the beat since about the 2021 season, really last season. But I've been around this program for a while, and I've watched this program, my entire life. And I mean, maybe that is batter Vol syndrome. I don't know, but I mean, Tennessee undisputedly had the best record in the entire country. All right, it was no doubt about it, and Tennessee deserved to be the number 1 ranked team in the country, and it was. What's that mean? Well, I mean, Tennessee's in a pretty good spot because say you lose to Georgia, okay? As long as you don't get blown out. I mean, as long as you don't get blown out, it's a good competitive football game. As long as if you lose to Georgia and then Georgia falls to Alabama, you're taking both Alabama and Tennessee. Because again, I was doing I was doing a Zoom hit on Tuesday afternoon, and the host was like, if Tennessee beats Georgia, do you think it runs the table in the regular season? I'm like, well, absolutely. Why wouldn't it? Right? I mean, it was no like disrespect to them, but I mean, you've got Missouri, you got South Carolina, you got Vanderbilt. I mean, you got Missouri at home, South Carolina on the road, Vanderbilt on the road. I think I said on yesterday's show that Vanderbilt was a home game, and it made some of you guys laugh because you thought I was being funny. No, I was being stupid. I just forgot. But absolutely, if you beat Georgia, you're running the table. You're 12-0 in the regular season in the SEC. But if you lose to Georgia and then Alabama beats Georgia, you go Splitsville with Alabama, or you go, or excuse me, or if you be even, so if that happens, you're in the college football playoff likely. If you beat Georgia, you go to the college football playoff, or excuse me, you beat Georgia, you go to the SEC championship game, and you lose to Alabama again. That's when you go Splitsville with Alabama. You're still going to the college football playoff as long as it's not a blowout. I mean, Georgia, you look at Georgia, right? It's hanging its head on an Oregon win way back in the season. That looks much better now, but you take that out, and its best win is against the South Carolina team that's got, 3 losses right now? Georgia needs to beat Tennessee, and Georgia needs help in a lot of different areas if it doesn't run the table after that as well. So Tennessee's in a pretty good spot. I mean, Tennessee is in a really good spot, and here's a lot of what Josh Heupel had to say after Tennessee was ranked number 1. So when you look at the 3 teams, actually, this is Abu Corrigan, is the College Football Playoff Selection Committee chair. This is what he said after the announcement. When you look at the 3 teams, Tennessee, Ohio State, and Georgia, all 3 very good football teams that the committee liked. I think the 2 Tennessee wins you're looking at is Alabama and LSU really sealed the day for Tennessee. He goes on to say, and this is actually Josh Heupel post the announcement, there's a long ways to go. Obviously, we've got a huge test this week in Athens, Georgia, but I love competing with this team every single Saturday. He goes on to say, for any offense that goes on the road, it's a little bit different in your communication. You got to be super efficient. This is in relation to the Georgia game. You have to communicate extremely well. Obviously, you're going to go on a silent count. That's something we use here at home as well. He continues to go on. It'll be important for us to get the chains moving and to stay ahead of things and not let the crowd get into it in some of those third and long situations. Absolutely. Tennessee did not win first down at all at Pittsburgh, and that's why the offense had a subpar day. So also another thing that the committee liked was the defensive performances from Tennessee at LSU and against Kentucky. That was a big reason why the committee kind of valued Tennessee where it was, going on the road and smacking LSU and holding them to what was it, 13 points, and then what it did to Kentucky at home, just having 6 points allowed. That was also big in the committee's mind and a reason why Tennessee was ranked number 1. So a lot of good stuff coming out on Tuesday night. We thought Tennessee had the best resume. It did have the best resume, and ultimately it prevailed. It prevailed, and it is the number 1 team in the college football playoff rankings. The only football team to debut at number 1 in the college football playoff rankings that missed the college football playoffs altogether was Mississippi State in 2014. Mississippi State went on and it lost to Alabama. It lost to Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl, and it missed out on the college football playoff. But Mississippi State is the only team since the college football playoffs debuted for it to debut as the number 1 team that first week, and it ultimately fell out and didn't make the college football playoff. I have a tab open on one of my other screens here, and there's audio playing in my ears. So if you guys hear that, I do apologize. But nonetheless, for Tennessee, it was a really, really good night. Just sit back and think of how far this program has come since January of 2021. It's absolutely mind-blowing. But as we'll talk with Josh Ward in segment number 2 coming up here in a second, I mean, Tennessee's got a massive, massive test coming up Saturday against Georgia. You get to get out on the field. You get to truly see who's going to be the best football team in the SEC East and maybe in the nation, right? If Tennessee beats Georgia on Saturday, I mean, I think Georgia is going to be hard for Georgia to make the college football playoff. I really, really do. So, we'll see what happens. It's going to be fun. We're going to continue to break down this Georgia matchup as the week goes on. But coming up next, we're going to talk with Josh Ward, get his thoughts on the Kentucky win, get his thoughts on Tennessee debuting at number 1 in the college football playoff. And coming up in segment 3, we're going to take a look at the Pro Football Focus grades for Tennessee in that win over Kentucky. So that's what you have to look forward to coming up here on Locked On Vols. But I I'll remind you guys about LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have the access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. So put your job on LinkedIn with that purple hashtag hiring frame to let LinkedIn know that you are indeed hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so that you can quickly prioritize who you want to hire, interview, and then again, ultimately hire. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus its leading competitors. All right, call to action here. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Welcome back into your Wednesday edition of the show, segment number 2. It is Wednesday. It is time to bring on our buddy Josh Ward. Plenty to talk about, Josh Ward. A big-time football week for the University of Tennessee. And, oh, yeah, as we spoke on in segment 1, Tennessee is ranked #1 in the college football playoff rankings. Your initial thoughts? And, man, it's hard to believe, isn't it?
It is. I wouldn't have believed it back in July and August. And there was a big buildup this summer to what this season could be with Hendon Hooker coming back and Cedric Tillman coming back. And he has not actually factored into the big takeoff from Tennessee football. Did play this past week in an impressive win. But what this team has become, how good this offense has become, and really what the offensive line has been able to do from last year to this year has transformed this team and the program, all the players involved, the coaching staff, everybody behind it deserves so much credit for Tennessee to be the #1 team in the country, the team that everybody else is chasing, and Georgia will get that chance this week. That's where things stand with the college football playoff rankings coming out, and it's beyond an exciting time. It is an unbelievable time. That word is tossed around too often when we actually see things that are believable. This is one that I think would have been unbelievable to most fans just 10 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean it really is. And I was sitting there doing my practice report on a Tuesday evening on Sports Talk, and I was just like, man, if I would have told you guys back in August that I'd be reminding everybody about the college football playoff rankings coming out at 7:00, here in a couple of minutes, I'd be lying to you. I mean, I just didn't think that was remotely a possibility, but here you are, and it's been a whole lot of fun to cover this team. Did you expect Tennessee to be #1, or did you think that they give it to an Ohio State or a Georgia, despite Tennessee having the best resume?
Well, coming out of the weekend with the polls updated and at the start of Tuesday, I was still skeptical that Tennessee would be #1. I thought that it would likely be Georgia. I thought it would kind of mirror the polls. And that was where I stood there. But then hearing a lot of people as Tuesday went along say, I think there's a good chance Tennessee is going to be #1. I thought, okay, that's probably going to be the case. So by the time we got to the playoff rankings coming out, I thought Tennessee would be #1. But coming out of the weekend, I thought that it would be more benefit of the doubt to the team that won a national title last year, and that's not supposed to count. And obviously, it did not. Georgia's #3. No. But I also looked at it and said, well, this committee so often will tell you what they think of a team, like Alabama, for instance, still being #6, being ahead of an unbeaten Big 12 team. They tell you, okay, we still think Bama is this. I thought that they would say, we still think Georgia is this, considering Georgia is a clear favorite in the game against Tennessee, and Georgia is unbeaten and did have the win against Oregon. But they said Tennessee's #1, and that is a statement to Tennessee. That's a statement to what this offense has been able to do, the quality of wins, beating Alabama, beating LSU that way on the road. And even with the defensive concerns that have existed, we were told after the fact, well, the defensive performance against LSU and Kentucky really stood out. So Tennessee earned its way to topping Georgia and Ohio State, teams that everyone likes so much at the start of the season.
It's kind of funny whenever you have committees and, the people are different that comprise a committee. If you were a committee sitting member voting on something such as the college football playoff rankings, how would you do it? Would you value a resume over what you think of, Georgia might be the best football team in the country. We'll know for sure, after Saturday, but, Georgia, or better example, Ohio State may be the best football team in the country, but the resume doesn't compare to Tennessee's. Would you have valued a resume over Ohio State in that situation? And maybe would it change from week #1 to week #6 at the end of November, potentially, whenever you are truly making the call to try to see the best teams in the playoff?
Well, resume would be part of it because we have to remember we're looking at incomplete resumes. They're not complete. We still have another month of the season to go. So what has happened to this point? But you have to look within. So Tennessee's resume is impressive in terms of the quality of opponents. Beating Alabama, beating LSU, and beating Kentucky are impressive wins, no doubt. Pitt and Florida, we can talk about really how much has that impressed the committee. I doubt those games meant that much to the committee. I think it's more what they've done at the top and then taking care of business in those other games. But look at the way Tennessee has played. That offense is for real. There's no question putting up 50. It's not just beating Alabama. It's putting up 52 points against Alabama. And the defense has been better than some of the statistical categories show. There are some stats that actually show Tennessee to be pretty solid on the defensive side. So I think it's the way Tennessee has looked. And then Ohio State, for a period of time in that Notre Dame game, having a tough time, and they dealt with an injury there at receiver that they had to kind of overcome. That's an opening game. I wouldn't react too strongly to that. But having a challenging time against a quality Penn State team compared to what Tennessee has done in the same weekend, where I'm not saying the opponents are the same, but struggling for part of the game against Penn State while Tennessee demolishes Kentucky had to help Tennessee side as well. So resume in terms of the wins and quality of opponents has to be a part of it. How well you've performed and the eye test to go along with the resume, I think both are in Tennessee's favor.
Speaking of that Kentucky game, I mean, I don't think any of us saw Tennessee beat them 44-6. I mean, what a performance. The story of the game is the defense, of course. I mean, we've seen the offense do that. We've seen Jalen Hyatt do that. We've seen Princeton fans score rushing touchdowns already this season. What we haven't seen is Tennessee come out and just physically beat down an opponent. LSU, I'll give you that one, but at the Power 5 level and the SEC level. But I mean, what Tennessee did, forcing and creating 3 turnovers, doing it with patchwork in the back end. What'd you think about Tennessee's win over Kentucky to get them to 8-0 on the season?
Yeah, so a difference to me with the win against Kentucky versus the win against LSU, both are really impressive, right? And the margin of victory is terrific on Tennessee's side. Tennessee did get some fortunate bounces that they then took advantage of in the LSU game. But I thought what happened against Kentucky, opening kickoff, the ball goes to Tennessee, and credit, for falling on the ball. But that's just a botched play by LSU. Tennessee strikes quickly. Tennessee had a couple of fumbles that fell back Tennessee's way. So again, fortunate that Tennessee took advantage of, and in the end, they blew out LSU. But Tennessee did all that to Kentucky. Danico Slaughter blowing up a Kentucky player to create an interception, take points away from Kentucky, and set the offense up. Hitting bombs. I mean, there were some miscues by Kentucky, but Tennessee created that. Tennessee did all of that to Kentucky. So I did not expect that kind of win at LSU. I did not expect that margin of victory for Tennessee against Kentucky. I think both are quality teams. I don't know if LSU is really one of the 10 best teams in the country, but it's better than it looked against Tennessee. And a lot of that is because of how good Tennessee is. Like Tennessee had some fortunate bounces, but then the Vols took advantage, and LSU was not good enough to keep up with what Tennessee was able to do. So that's why I say Tennessee has earned its way. And while the defense had some issues against Alabama, it did make a couple of plays, and the offense was so powerful, 52 points against the Nick Saban-led team, that speaks for itself to the committee.
Josh, last question, man. I mean, up until Tuesday night, it's what anybody and everybody's been talking about. Now, the big part of Wednesday's conversation will be dominated by Tennessee being number one, but big-time football game coming up. And again, if you're Josh Heupel, of course you want to be number one, but you kind of still want to have that chip on your shoulder, right? Or, in my opinion, the leadership of this football team, stemming from the coaching staff and Josh Heupel, won't let that be an issue. I mean, again, this team always preaches on preparation and preparing the right way and all that type of stuff. Anyway, big-time football game coming up on Saturday. Georgia, very explosive offense. I mean, one of the second best offense in the country. I don't think anybody knows that. In the country is Georgia's offense. Obviously, a solid defense. How challenging and how can Tennessee overcome all that and win between the hedges?
Yeah, I mean, it's really challenging. I don't know if the line is correct, but the odds makers are telling you the number one team in the country is more than a touchdown underdog against the number 3 team in the country. And location matters somewhat, but that also tells me Georgia would be favored in Knoxville. So it's a big test. It's a defense that is really talented and deep. They have to replace Nolan Smith, but they have talented players and some experience to help do that. They have a top 10 pick on that defensive line. They have an experienced quarterback who's maybe not the most talented. He's actually more talented than people probably want to give him credit for in Stetson Bennett. And then Brock Bowers, who pound for pound, position by position, is as good as anybody in the country. He's a monster. And then a bunch of good players in between what I just laid out. And you have to go there. And, compare Georgia to Alabama. Alabama came in committing a lot of penalties, and that offense really shot itself in the foot early in that game, right? And throughout that game, they shot themselves in the foot. Georgia's not done that too often penalty-wise. They did turn it over against Florida, and that gave Florida a chance to get back in, and then Georgia blew Florida away again. So Kirby Smart is thrilled that the playoff committee ranked his team number 3 and Tennessee number 1. He knows how Nick Saban would create lies to motivate his team. He doesn't have to make that up to motivate his team, but Tennessee's also been on a mission. And when Hendon Hooker says, hey, it's simple, we're trying to get to Atlanta, they know this game can get them to Atlanta. So I think it's going to be a great one. I think the line's too high. I think that's too many points. I don't think Georgia's 9 points better than Tennessee. Georgia will have a chance to prove me wrong on Saturday. But at this point, the line was off against LSU. The line was off against Kentucky. I think it's off again this week, and I think Tennessee has a really good chance to win in Athens.
I got a dilemma here, man. How do I approach this? I'm a guy of consistency. I go by what the AP poll says. When Tennessee beat Alabama, it was Tennessee knocking off number 3 or whatever Crimson Tide. What number 1?
Yeah.
If you work in the Nets ID department, you take the ranking of the highest poll. So is this number 2 versus number 1, or is this number 1 versus number 3 this week for Tennessee, Georgia? I don't know how to approach this.
Well, the funny thing is, if you don't put the numbers in front of the team's names and you just say it's 1 versus 2, that's the better sell, right?
No.
But Tennessee's number 1 if you use the playoff rankings. So 1 versus 3 doesn't sound as good, but the fans know who you're talking about. So I don't know. I have to figure that out myself. My colleague, Jason Swain, he likes to take the ranking that most benefits who he's in favor of. So in that case, I do know that Tennessee fans are going to want to hear Tennessee referred to as the number 1 team in the country. Here's the thing. If you win this week, the AP poll and the coaches poll and the playoff rankings, I think all will back up Tennessee being the number 1 team. So take care of business this week, and you can ride that all the way to the SEC title game.
Would it work for an SEO headline to say number 1 Tennessee versus number 1 Georgia? Because I mean that's picking and choosing right there.
Yeah, well, what would it do if you say the number 1, 2, and 3 teams in the country are all playing in Athens on Saturday? That would actually throw off some algorithms.
As Tennessee fans and as people who cover the University of Tennessee, we've literally never had to worry about this. So here we are. Josh, a lot of good stuff coming up on Josh and Swain every single day, noon to 3 on the Sports Animal. What do you and VFL Jason Swain got coming up the rest of the week?
Yeah, Tennessee fans, welcome back to caring about football where it matters in November. So we're covering all that. Swain has great perspective. He knows about hanging half 100 down in Athens, and that's what fans don't just want to win. They want to get to 50 again this week against Georgia. So we're covering all that. I think a really good guest lineup to close out the week as well. So check us out on Josh and Swain.
All right, Josh, appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
You got it. Thank you.
That's Josh Ward every single Wednesday right here on Locked On Vols. We come back, we'll dive into the Pro Football Focus grades a little bit, tell you about the run blocking, pass blocking, coverage stats, all that and more coming up next here on Locked On Vols. BetOnline is your number 1 source for the betting, football, and the start of the new college basketball season. Find out the latest player developments, the team matchups, the news, the podcast, and the in-depth analysis on every single game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting up to the minute scores for every single sport out there. The fastest, the easiest way to check in on all your favorite games, events, Major League Baseball playoffs, the World Series going on right now, guys. I know we don't care about it. Atlanta's not in it, so it is what it is, but you can still make some money off it, right? MMA, boxing, golf. You can head on over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn about all the latest trends and all the action. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. All right, guys, welcome back into it. This is Locked On Vols, your go-to Tennessee Volunteer podcast each and every single day. I'm Eric Kane. This is the last time we're going to talk about the Kentucky win, but I do like the Pro Football Focus rankings. I used to do pretty much a whole show on it. I think you guys have liked it better when I've kind of shrunk it down and just kind of highlighted the important stuff. We can go through and talk about the grades upon grades all we want, but overall, I think you guys kind of want to see who was the best pass blocker, the directional passing, all that type of stuff. So that's kind of what I try to bring to the show when I talk about Pro Football Focus right now. So anyway, let's start as we always do on the offensive end. Really good day for the starters. All right. And if you're listening right now, Pro Football Focus, the grading scale 90 to 99 is elite, 80 to 89 is very good, 70 to 79 is an above average starter, 60 to 69 is an average starter. Here's where I make the joke that I wish that was, average in grade school. Below average starters, 50 to 59, and less than 50 is considered a backup level player. The starters on the offensive end, Darnell Wright graded out second highest at 81.6%. He was the co-SEC offensive lineman of the week. Hendon Hooker had the third highest grade, 81%. Jabari Small, the fourth highest grade, 71%. Jalen Hyatt, Jeremiah Crawford, the sixth highest grade, 65.9. Jalen Hyatt, seventh highest grade, 63.6. Javonte Spraggins, the eighth highest grade at 61.4. Brew McCoy, 60.3, right below him. Go all the way down here, the 19th highest grade, Cedric Tillman, who played 48 snaps in this football game. Remember, he didn't play at all in the second half, graded out at 58.8. Cooper Mays, the 20th highest grade on offense, 58.7. Jerome Carvin, the 22nd highest graded out guy on offense, 56.9. And Jacob Warren, 23rd at 50.0. Pro Football Focus hates Jerome Carvin. Pro Football Focus hates Jeremy Banks. They never grade those guys high. But anyway, that's kind of how you look at this. Tennessee did put in some backups there towards the very end of the football game. Tennessee rep 25 players. Snap count, Ramel Keaton played the second half for Cedric Tillman. In a couple of plays in that first half, Ramel Keaton had 20 snaps in this football game. Jalen Wright had 19 total snaps. He should have had 40. He ran the ball super hard. Not like Jabari Small played poorly by any stretch of the imagination, but he got 48 snaps. There needs to be that gap needs to close a little bit, in my opinion. So let's go look at the blocking, shall we? Well, first, let's look at directional passing. Let's see here. Hendon Hooker on plays, on throwing between the numbers, 20 yards plus down the field. He was 0 for 1. Outside to the right, 20 yards down the field. He was those were two of those were Jalen Hyatt plays. You had 3 for 5, 125 yards and 2 touchdowns, both the Jalen Hyatts. 10 to 20 yards intermediate passing, middle of the field. Hendon Hooker was 1 for 4 for 16 yards. 10 to 20 yards. Right outside, Hendon Hooker was 1 for 1, 13 yards. 0 to 10 yards from the line of scrimmage to the 10 yards out. Hendon Hooker was 5 for 5 to the left side for 38 yards. He was 4 for 4 between the hashes for 31 yards, and he was 1 for 1 for 7 yards to the right side. At or behind the line of scrimmage, right at the middle, 3 for 3, 12 yards, 1 for 1 to the right for 3 yards. He was kept clean, this being Hendon Hooker 75% of the time. Hendon Hooker was under pressure 24.2% of the time. Offensive line continues to do a great job. Although Kentucky didn't blitz an awful lot, he was not blitzed 81% of the time. So that's a little bit on Hendon Hooker. Let's go look at the pass blocking grades. The highest guy who graded out in terms of pass blocking was Darnell Wright, an 82.6 grade in pass blocking, phenomenal on 37 reps. Jabari Small was second. He had 26 reps, 81.1. True pass blocking reps, I think he only had 11, but still a nice, solid job there from the running back. Javonte Spraggins, 74.7% on 37 reps pass blocking. You had Princeton Fant, 69.9% on 16 reps. Jacob Warren, 21 reps, 67.9. All these are really good grades. Jeremiah Crawford, 37 reps pass blocking, 58.5, which is okay. That's all right. And then Cooper Mays down there. Cooper Mays did give up a sack in this football game. 44% was his grade. And then Jerome Carvin, 37 reps, 41.7% was his grade. And it says that both Jerome Carvin and Cooper Mays gave up a sack. Technically, the ball that Hendon Hooker held onto forever that I kept talking about on Monday, that was actually Darnell Wright's guy, but still, Darnell Wright, I mean, that's not on him. That is on Hendon Hooker. Run blocking real quick. Let's roll through this. Darnell Wright, 77.7 was his grade and 31 reps. Jeremiah Crawford, who's a good run blocker, 66.3 was his grade on 31 reps. Cooper Mays, 64.9 on 31 reps. Let's look at the other linemen, shall we? Jerome Carvin, 58.1% was his grade. Javonte Spraggins, 57.9% was his grade. All right, let's go to defense. Let's blow through this really, really quick. Tennessee played again that last drive where Kentucky was had 1 yard in the entire third quarter, and then I think they had 50 yards in the fourth quarter, but a lot of that was on the last drive of the game whenever Tennessee had some backups in. Tennessee played 30 players on the defense side of the football. Let's run through the starters. Danico Slaughter, man, first ever start at cornerback in 47 snaps. Danico Slaughter grades out at 80.2. That was the second highest on the football team, second only to Caleb Perry, freshman linebacker, who played only 6 reps. So what a performance from Danico Slaughter. Juwan Mitchell as well, 79.4 was his grade on 30 snaps. Amari Thomas, defensive tackle, 74.7% on just 24 snaps. That's good to see. Brandon Turnage, who played 52 snaps at cornerback, okay, and got the start as well. Played well, 74.7% was his grade in terms of Pro Football Focus. Jalen McCullough, his first game back in 2 games, 38 snaps, 74.7%. Latrell Bumpus, 24 snaps, 71.1% was his grade. Deshaun Terry, who I thought played a fantastic game, 20 snaps, 66.3 was his grade. Let's go on down here. Tamarian McDonald, 38 reps, 58.4. Byron Young, 33 reps, 56.1 was his grade. Aaron Beasley, 27 reps, 54 even was his grade. Trayvon Flowers, 52 reps, 49.3. And then Jeremy Banks, 41 reps, 45.8 was his grade. Let's find Wesley Walker, shall we? Because I thought Wesley Walker played a really good game. Sometimes Pro Football Focus doesn't tell the whole story, and here it is right here. Wesley Walker, 37 reps, 54.7% was his grade. So it just kind of, it fluctuates. All right, last thing I want to check here is coverage from the DBs for Tennessee. I really like watching this, as the games go on. So I'm going to give you targets and receptions given up. Brandon Turnage was only targeted 1 time, gave up no receptions, had an interception. Danico Slaughter was targeted 3 times, gave up no receptions, had an interception. Jalen McCullough wasn't targeted. Juwan Mitchell at linebacker, targeted 3 times, gave up 3 receptions for 24 yards. Let's see here. William Wright, when he was in there at cornerback, he only had 7 reps in terms of pass coverage. He was targeted once, gave up 1 reception for 7 yards. Aaron Beasley was targeted once, no receptions. Tamarian McDonald was targeted 4 times, gave up 3 receptions for 11 yards. Let's see here. Trayvon Flowers was targeted 4 times, gave up 3 receptions for 35 yards. Wesley Walker was targeted 4 times, gave up 4 receptions for just 12 yards. Roman Harrison was targeted twice, gave up 2 receptions for 9 yards. And then Jeremy Banks targeted 3 times, gave up no reception. So, again, a really, really solid day for Tennessee's Tennessee secondary. They did a really, really nice job. I want to check one more stat, okay? Let's go to tackling here. And let's check missed tackles. Danico Slaughter and Juwan Mitchell had 1 missed tackle. Brandon Turnage had a missed tackle. Deshaun Terry had a missed tackle. Kerrod Garland had a missed tackle. Tyler Barron had a missed tackle. Tamarian McDonald had a missed tackle. Wesley Walker had 2 missed tackles. Aaron Beasley had 2 missed tackles. Elijah Simmons and Tyree West had a missed tackle. Trayvon Flowers had 2 missed tackles. And Solon Page had a missed tackle. Tennessee had 16 missed tackles, according to Pro Football Focus, in that game against Kentucky. That right there is a stat that can get you beat against a team like Georgia. All right. Anyway you want to spin it, though, Tennessee looked really, really good on real life, on the tape, and again in the grade book per Pro Football Focus. Tennessee 8-0, 4-0 in SEC play, number 2 in the AP, number 3 in the coaches poll, and number 1 in the first installment of the college football playoff rankings. All right, what a show. Had a whole lot of fun discussing Tennessee's number 1 ranking in the college football playoffs. Coming up tomorrow, we will chat with a couple of different guests who I'm really looking forward to it. And let's see, tomorrow's show, let's see, Wednesday. Tomorrow's show is going to be Thursday. I'm going to catch up with Mike Griffith of AJC at some point, Dog Nation at some point. I'm going to have a crossover with Chris Gordy of Locked On SEC. We got Boogie coming up later this weekend. I think I got another guest as well. And hey, I'm a busy guy. I might try something on Friday. Okay. I don't want to commit to it right now, but I don't just want to bombard it and have you guys not being able to plan. just keep your, be available around lunchtime on Friday. Potentially, I might go live on YouTube, so that'd be a whole lot of fun. Not committing to it right now because again, I've got things to do. But if I can make that work, I want to try this whole YouTube live situation. So that's kind of what I want to do on Friday. So if you're at work, you can put it up on your work desktop. If you're on the road, you can pull up on your phone. But that's kind of my plan. So we'll see if it can work out. But tons and tons of Georgia content to get into the rest of the week. As always, guys, thank you so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen. Now, check out Locked On Sports Today, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and, of course, the take of the day that is available on this app, the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Same time, same place. We will do a whole lot more tomorrow as well. This has been Locked On Vols.